Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I am here from Visa Solutions Healthcare. My name is Angel Flanagan. I am the Director of Client Success and oversee account management. Little background about me is I'm a nurse. I've been in healthcare for over 20 years, working bedside, then Director of Nursing, and then becoming an administrator and obtaining my license here in the state of Texas. And with me, this wonderful panel of individuals is from Hendrick Health. And I'm going to be starting off with an introduction with Chris Mundy. Now, all of you at some point in time in your process of getting to Hendrick Health are going to spend time and get to know Chris. She is the international coordinator, and part of her job is to help welcome you and set you up for success alongside of Visa Solutions Healthcare. We thank you all so much for joining us today. I know that you are all joining from all around the world, and it may be 10 o'clock at night or 2 o'clock in the morning where you're joining from. So thank you so much for joining us. And Chris, take it away.
Thanks, Angel. Well, good morning. It is 10 a.m. in West Texas right now. I don't know what time it is where you are, but thank you for making it a priority to be with us. Whether you're moving to Abilene or to Brownwood, we are so excited to welcome you to the Hendrick family. And we know that you may have just come off a really long shift. So thank you for being here. My name is Chris Jones Mundy, and I'm the international coordinator, as Angel said. And my job is to support and encourage and prepare you both before you pack your bags and then after you arrive. So these quarterly calls are designed to help you see familiar faces and meet hospital leadership and feel supported every step of the way. So over the next hour, we have a really great lineup for you. I'm really excited. These speakers are eager to meet you. And I think the presence of our nurse leadership also shows just how committed they are to you and how committed they are to our internationally educated nurses. You're already part of this family. So we hope that you feel that warmth and feel connected to us already. We will have a Q&A session at the end. So please feel free to drop any questions you have in the chat. You can do that throughout the presentation, and we will address them at the end. So to kick things off, I'm excited to introduce you to Susan Greenwood. Susan is a vice president for Hendrick Health, and she is our chief nursing officer. And Susan, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Okay, great. Thanks, Chris. Hello, everybody. As Chris said, I'm Susan Greenwood. I serve as the Chief Nursing Officer for Hendrick Health at the system level. And then we have two Chief Nursing Officers, Priscilla Camacho, who is over the Abilene market, our two hospitals here, and Jessica Connell, who is the Chief Nursing Officer in Brownwood. We are all three together today at our hospice house here in Abilene. We have a big conference room here, and we are doing a charge nurse leadership retreat. So that is a training session that we do once a year for a half day with all of our charge nurses across the system. They come together and we do educational updates and information. They get a little gift and we do an activity with them. And so both Jessica and Priscilla are presenting right now. And so I stepped into a conference room so that I could meet with all of you all. I do want to share something fun. So one of our charge nurses' name is Janeth, and her nephew interviewed with us through Visa Solutions when we were in Dubai in the UAE last year. And we just got word that he passed his NCLEX. So yay, we had a little celebration with her and him this morning. And we're so proud of him, and we just can't wait for him to get here. And I know she's super excited about having him here in Abilene with her. So if you end up watching this video, just congratulations. And for the rest of you that are slated to take your NCLEX, good luck. We know that you're going to do great. And that's just how excited our Hendrick family is to be watching your progress and getting ready to welcome you and greet you and welcome you into our family. We are following your progress, and we are just so excited. You could start tomorrow and it would not be soon enough for us. And so we have great plans for you and are so excited to have you join us. It's a great day to be a nurse at Hendrick. We have lots of exciting things. We are in the middle of our second year of our clinical ladder program, and that's where you are rewarded both from a recognition standpoint, getting to wear a badge that says you're an RN2 or 3 or 4, but also from a monetary standpoint for the things that you are doing to go above and beyond for our patients in our hospital and our community. Like I said, we're at Charge Nurse Retreat today. We are always doing ongoing education and growth and development for our nurses. And so we hope that these quarterly calls are just an example of that we want to stay connected with you, make sure that you're as prepared as you can be so that when you finally get here, which we're hoping is tomorrow, but can't come soon enough for us. But when you finally get here, that you feel very well prepared and you feel a part of the Hendrick Health family. So thank you for taking time to join this call. And thank you to all of our speakers today that are sharing a little bit of their story and their services that they offer so that you can become better educated and versed on the things that Hendrick Health does for our patients in our community. So thank you all for being here.
Thank you, Susan. All right, next, I am really excited for you to meet two of my absolute favorite people to run into at the hospital. Lindsay Guerrero is our chaplain coordinator, and Wesley Erickson is our director for mission and ministry. And I think you'll know what I'm talking about after you hear them speak. They radiate such peace and joy, and you're in for a real treat. So, Lindsay and Wes, welcome.
Thank you, Chris, and good morning and welcome from Abilene, Texas. As Chris said, my name is Wesley Erickson, and I am a chaplain, and I'm very fortunate to be the director of mission and ministry. I oversee the delivery of spiritual care and chaplaincy services for patients, families, and employees across the Hendrick Health system, and I have had the honor of serving at Hendrick for 7 years now. Lindsay, would you like to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. So I am Lindsay Guerrero, and like Chris said already, I am the chaplain coordinator at Hendrick, which means that I'm the coordinator of the program at one campus, so our North Campus as part of Hendrick. I've been a chaplain for 20 years, but have worked at Hendrick for 4, and I can honestly say that these last 4 years have been my favorite 4 years as a chaplain. And I am so delighted and grateful that we got to be invited to tell you a little bit about who we are, but more than anything, to let all of you know that we are in prayer for you. We are thinking of you and are so excited to welcome you into the ministry at Hendrick because you will be full participants in that alongside us. So it's good to see all of you.
Thank you. I'm going to share my screen here. How does that look? So over the next few minutes, I want to answer just 3 questions about mission and ministry: who we are, why we exist, and what we do, specifically around how we care for our patients, but also our employees. And at the end of the session, if anyone has questions, we would be glad to answer any. So quickly, this is just what our team looks like. You see some beautiful faces here, just a very diverse team across different genders and demographics, denominations. These are the chaplains that serve Hendrick North, South, and Brownwood, but also do work at our clinics, at places like the Service Center. We're very proud to say that Hendrick has had chaplaincy services since 1958. So there's a strong legacy of spiritual care at this hospital, where the hospital has recognized the value of chaplains. They've recognized the value of spiritual support and care, not just for our patients, but also for our staff. And so we have 18 chaplains across the 3 campuses. These chaplains report to our coordinators who guide their daily functioning and schedules. Our staff chaplains provide 24/7 coverage. That means there is never an hour or any shift where you cannot reach a chaplain for a patient, a family, or for yourself. This includes night shift and weekends. And we strive to ensure that you are never alone with a spiritual or emotional crisis when working. It is very common to see chaplains in patient rooms offering support. That could be through conversation or prayer or offering a ritual. It's also very common to see chaplains just rounding on the units, just checking in with employees, just to assess if there are any spiritual or emotional needs that you might be going through. Our chaplains will visit with new admits as well as offer support during crisis, such as trauma or end of life cases. And our chaplains are trained to be supportive and compassionate in these moments. Lindsay and I pride ourselves on offering continuing education to our chaplains so that they can keep up with current research in the field of chaplaincy. We know that healthcare is an ever-changing field. It's very dynamic. There's always a lot of changes going on. And so we want to make sure that we're best suited to meet that need on any unit or with any discipline, whether it be patients, families, or staff. Lindsay?
All right. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about our healing ministry and then really honing in on what that ministry looks like and how you are going to be participants in that. I'm sure all of you have heard our mission statement by now, but I'm going to highlight that one of the most, for me, the most treasured part of our mission statement, which is that we do all of our excellent and compassionate healthcare to deliver the healing ministry of Jesus Christ. So one of the things that I remember thinking about when just throughout my career, having been a chaplain for 20 years, if there's anything that I've learned, it's that you do not have to have chaplain on your badge like all of the chaplains do to be participating in ministry in healthcare. Every single one of us participates in the healing ministry of Jesus Christ as part of this Hendrick team. And it's such a joy to get to greet you because I feel very strongly that I'm greeting my new colleagues in ministry. And what a blessing that is to do that as a body of Christ and not just as individuals on our own. And so when I think about what that healing ministry looks like in healthcare, but also especially at Hendrick, there's something that I learned that I found really valuable as I go about my work as a chaplain and partner with my colleagues at Hendrick, including you, is that when you see the ministry, the healing ministry of Jesus Christ in our scripture, so when you go to our scriptures and you look at how Jesus heals, there's an interesting quality that I hadn't noticed originally when I thought about the healing ministry of Jesus Christ. If you are able to read the New Testament in Greek, which is the original language that the New Testament was written in, you would see that there are actually 3 different words for healing in Greek. In the language, there are 3 separate words. And it's interesting, one of the words means something like cure, like alleviation of physical symptoms. But the other 2 words have a quality of healing, not just of our bodies, but healing of our mind, body, and spirit. And one of those final words, the 3rd word, has a quality of true healing that connects you to God. So not necessarily healing of just your body, but of a healing that connects you to God and to the truest, most part of your identity as a child of God. I found it interesting reading the scriptures and seeing examples of the healing ministry of Jesus Christ, that when it talks about sick people who come to Jesus and seek healing, they are often using that first word. They say they want to be healed in the sense that they want their physical symptoms alleviated. And when it says in the scriptures, so Jesus healed them, it's that 3rd meaning for healing. It's that 3rd word. So not just healing of mind, body, and spirit, but healing that connects you to who you are as a child who is loved by God. So when I think about the healing ministry of Jesus Christ, that is so central to Hendrick's identity and is so central to what we all participate in, we will have some patients who will not be physically cured. However, it doesn't mean that they can't experience healing. And that is the incredible ministry that you are a part of. As you go about your work, caring for patients, showing them compassion, meeting them exactly where they are, learning about who they are, you are going to be participating in the healing ministry of Jesus Christ. That's beyond just our bodies, but that reaches to our spirits as well. Now, every department, like I said already, has a different manifestation of this healing, and we are excited to learn from you and see the unique gifts that God has given you to be a part of that. So I am grateful that we'll get to welcome you into that ministry that we'll all be doing together. So Wes, can I have the next slide, please? So I want to talk a little bit more about what we as chaplains do in our role as participants in the healing ministry of Jesus Christ. And so I'm going to focus in for a little bit on what our primary roles are with our patients. Certainly one of our primary roles as a chaplain is to meet patients where they are and do our best to assess what their spirituality looks like for them. I often talk about spirituality in terms of like a thumbprint, that we all have our own thumbprint when it comes to how we see God, how we experience God, if we even use those words. It's one of the things I love about being a chaplain is I feel like I get to spend all day learning about people's thumbprints. And even for as long as I've been a chaplain, I learn something new every single day. And what a blessing that is for me. So part of that, as people who are at the bedside, learning about our patients' thumbprints, we are doing our best to facilitate conversation, to listen more than we talk, to pay attention to where they might be experiencing grief or fear or even hope, because I've learned that every single person who's in a hospital is on some level going through a period of uncertainty. And when people go through periods of uncertainty, it's really normal that it bring to mind hope or fear or concern or grief, and having a conversation partner is really valuable for that. And one of the things that I treasure about our role is that chaplains, in a way, are the people who have the time, who are scheduled to have the time to sit and have those longer conversations, because we know that many of our nurse colleagues, if they had the time, they would want to sit and spend 30 minutes to an hour hearing about what our patients are going through and really have those very deep conversations about who they are. And sometimes you might be able to do that, but there are other times where, due to your other caregiving responsibilities, you might not have the time. And so I offer that as hopefully reassurance for you that in those moments, we are here to support you in caring for our patients and all of who we are. And based on what we learn about our patients, oftentimes we'll learn that there are different rituals or sacred practices that are important to them. Things like prayer or scripture reading or even sacramental ministry or rituals. Those are some things that we help facilitate. And again, we do not impose those on patients, but we pay really close attention to learning about their own unique expressions and practices around their unique thumbprints. Oftentimes, our work is being with patients and families in end-of-life circumstances, either for comfort care situations or sudden deaths. And our role is to walk with families through that part of the process as they appropriately grieve, and think about next steps. And then again, we are often called to and really consider it an honor and a privilege to be present with our patients and families during periods of medical crisis. Something that not all people know about chaplains, but it's actually really universal to a lot of medical centers, including every medical center I've ever worked in, is that chaplains respond to every single code that is called in the hospital. So even though we don't necessarily have a clinical role when there's a code blue or a stroke code, we really care a lot about and believe in the power of someone present who can offer prayer or support to staff and patients in those very critical moments. So, Wes, I'll hand it off to you.
I just want to spend a little time just talking about how we also care for our staff and our employees here at Hendrick. We've made it a real focal point of this department to balance this sense of care for patients and staff. We often say that we need to care for the caregiver so that collectively everyone can take better care of our patients and family. And so every day you will hear Mission and Ministry offering daily devotionals on our overhead. We also offer weekly chapel services just to promote the sacred rhythm within the building. These chapel services are attended by patients and employees, and they're really there just to provide an opportunity to rest and reset during busy days. We've had nurses take 15 minutes to come to chapel just to find quiet time, or maybe talk with the chaplain, or maybe spend time in prayer or meditate. And so we have these sacred spaces across all three campuses. Specific to nursing, we also offer a class called Hands of Mercy. This is our spirituality class for nurses, where we discuss the relationship between spirituality and nursing. As chaplains, we believe that nursing is a spiritual discipline. That's in how you care for the mind, body, and spirit of your patients. We also recognize that nurses bring their whole selves to the work. It is your mind, body, and spirit involved in the work of nursing. It's not just the physical and medicinal side. And so through this class, we seek to promote your awareness of this reality, and just to encourage you to adopt practices that assist with self-care in nursing. So whether that's burnout prevention or finding ways to soothe compassion fatigue, these are the things that we're interested in during this class. And so we're very proud to offer that. We're currently wrapping up our third cohort. Each cohort typically has 6 to 7 nurses, so it's pretty intimate. We'd love to hear the stories of why nurses became nurses originally. Do they still feel connected to that original calling? And if so, what has sustained them? And if not, what happened along the way? And so this class really was born out of COVID and my experiences as a chaplain during that time. Um, you know, for many of us who worked during COVID, for chaplains especially, we were not allowed to see patients as much as we would have liked because of precautions. And so that meant that our ministry shifted towards staff. And that's really where I got to understand the work of nursing. And that's where this class came out of. How do we assist our nursing workforce in the area of burnout and compassion fatigue? So very proud to have that class here at Hendrick. We also offer something called the Spiritual Supermarket, and this is a digital collection of resources that staff can access at any time. Within this resource page, you will find devotionals, mindfulness practices, gratitude practices. There are set prayers for nurses that focus on their own self-care, but then also prayers that you can use with patients. So we know that sometimes you can't always have a chaplain right there, right in the moment. Maybe we're somewhere else in the hospital responding to a crisis, and a patient is saying, hey, I would like a prayer. You can pull up the Spiritual Supermarket and there will be set prayers for nurses to read to their patients, so you don't feel like you were left unable to provide that support. And so we try to encourage nurses to be mindful of how they are also offering spiritual care in the moment. And then lastly, right here, and then I'll pass it off to Lindsay again. We have a dedicated staff support chaplain. Her name is Jean-Marie, and she is in a full-time role. Her job is to offer spiritual support to employees. That is her full-time job. She really has the best job in the whole hospital because she comes along with her snack cart. She just checks in with people. She builds relationships. But I've really seen the power of having a staff support chaplain. There are many nurses that will reach out to her and say, hey, Jean-Marie, I'm having a really tough day. Can you just spend a couple of minutes processing the events that happened this morning? Or I had a very difficult patient or a very angry family member say some very not nice things. Can you just process that with me? Or a nurse manager might reach out and say, Jean-Marie, can you bring the comfort cart where we have all the snacks and drinks and beverages, and the staff have an opportunity to gather around the cart and just reset and maybe have a better rest of the day because Jean-Marie, the staff support chaplain, came by just to support them. So that's very much a part of our culture, culture of compassion, not just for patients, but also for staff too. Lindsay, do you want to talk about RISE?
I would love to. So finally, a new program that we have rolled out as soon as or recently as June, although we've been working on this for 2.5 years, is we recognize how important it is to have someone to talk to in situations at work that might be really stressful. And I also want to acknowledge that there are some situations that are stressful that you might expect, like an unexpected death. But going back to all of our own thumbprints, there's no formula for the situations that can be stressful at work. And we know that it's really important that when you experience something at work that's stressful, that maybe you can't necessarily talk about with family or friends or process with someone outside of the setting. We want everyone who works at Hendrick, all of employees, to know that there's an outlet for them if they're ever seeking emotional support or someone just to walk alongside them in the moment after something happens. And so that's where RISE comes in. RISE is a program that stands for Resilience in Stressful Events. And what it is it's a hotline that every single employee at Hendrick can call. And when they call and leave a message within 30 minutes, a trained Hendrick employee who's a peer responder will call them back and be present to listen, to talk to them about what they're feeling, process what happened, and also connect them to additional resources if they need it. And that program is 24/7. 24/7, a Hendrick employee who's one of your peers will be available to talk to you and support you in the moment when you need that support. I think one of the things that's so valuable about RISE is really focusing in on it being one of your peers. So we all know that there's a value to talking to people outside of healthcare to process some of your experiences. And there are some things that people who work in healthcare, there's some situations that only other people who work in healthcare will understand, or even other people who work in your organization will understand. And so we know, and I've heard there've been many studies done about the value of having peer support like this. So as you come into Hendrick, I want you to know that that program is available to you. We have the number posted all throughout the hospital, that if there's ever a moment where you want to talk to someone, that is available to you 24/7. Oh, fine. Sorry. I thought I was going to pass it on to Wes, but this is me, and it's something I'm very passionate about talking about too. I'm going to go back to what I was speaking about already about the healing ministry of Jesus Christ and what that means. Another part of the healing ministry of Jesus Christ that we find in our scriptures that I learned directly from the scriptures is who God heals and who and how God or Jesus reaches out with healing. One of the things that I've noticed, again, going back to the healing stories we find in our scriptures, is that when people came to Jesus seeking healing, he didn't say, I will heal you if you believe in me. He didn't say, I will heal you if you've lived a perfect life. When people came to Jesus seeking healing, he healed them. It didn't matter where they come from. It didn't matter what they believed. It didn't even matter if they believed in him after they left. Jesus showed caring and compassion no matter who they are or what they believed. And so that part of healing ministry, that healing ministry of Jesus Christ, is something that we value so deeply at Hendrick as well. That every person who comes into our medical center, regardless of who they are, what they believe, if we agree with what they believe, all of them are people that we extend healing ministry to. And I say that as well, not just for our patients and families, but for you. We are excited to learn about your thumbprints. We're excited to learn about what's important to you and where you find meaning and hope. And sometimes that's connected to a specific religious tradition, and sometimes it's not, but you still have a thumbprint that we care about deeply. And so I want you to know that as well, that as you come here, you're not just participating in the healing ministry of Jesus Christ in that way, but we want you to receive the healing ministry of Jesus Christ in that way, from our team especially. So we care very deeply about that and wanted you to be aware. Certainly, I also wanted to lift up that in situations where a patient or a family member or even you does have a faith community that's important to them, part of our chaplain role is that we will support our patients and families to connecting to those communities if they're a better support system for our patients than maybe one of the chaplains in the hospital. So that's something we pay attention to and care about a lot as well. So Wes, I'll hand it back to you.
Thank you. And so just lastly here, just want to talk about the ways in which chaplains really work with our nurses here at Hendrick. Like I said at the beginning, we have a strong history of working with our nurses here going back to 1958. This interdisciplinary approach to care is something that Hendrick prides itself on. Very often, nurses will be the first in line to tell a chaplain that a patient is struggling. And so we encourage our nurses to call us when a patient or family seems like they're anxious or that they're grieving, for end-of-life care or death on a unit, or when someone just asks for prayer or the sacraments. We really do rely on our nurses to make those referrals and have us involved in the care. And as I mentioned, we are available 24/7, and so anytime is a good time to call a chaplain, and we will be there to support the family, but then also to support you as well. And then just closing up our time here, I just wanted to highlight some pictures that you'll see there in the top left, our chapel space. That's here at the North Campus. That's during one of our chapel services. You can see one of our nurses scrubbed in, still with the scrub cap on, attending. The man in the front on the right, he's with our facilities team. And then out of the picture, there was a couple patients that were going through cancer treatment. And so again, a very diverse community coming together weekly for a time of prayer and meditation. On the bottom two pictures there on the left, you'll often see our chaplains rounding to do the blessing of the hands. This is a deeply spiritual practice that we believe in, where we honor the work of your hands as nurses. And so we invite nurses to gather around the bowl, and then we will pour water over your hands while reading a blessing. And again, I usually ask the nurses just to think of all the things that your hands do as a nurse. So you know so much more about that than I could ever know. And we just want to take a moment of gratitude and say thank you for the work of your hands. And so very meaningful practice that we do here with our nurses. And then on the right here, you'll see this statue outside the front of Hendrick North. On the left, you have a mother and her child. On the right, a physician. And then standing behind them is a chaplain. Again, just demonstrating this deep connection between spirituality and medicine that Hendrick prides itself on. A strong legacy of spirituality and healthcare that I can honestly say, even up until this day, from the very top to the front lines, we have people that believe in this mission and in this identity. And so just as you begin your time at Hendrick and as we eagerly await your arrival, just remember that mission is not for a single department. It is delivered through many different hands, and we can't wait until you are a part of that mission too. One thing we say within this department is that there are many different ministries, but there's one mission. And so we try to uplift the ways in which you will be offering ministry at Hendrick so that collectively we can all deliver that healing ministry of Jesus Christ. So thank you all for inviting us to be here today. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Wes and Lindsay. I think you can all see exactly why I wanted you to get to meet them today. Thank you so much. Next up, I want to introduce Kim Pierce and Diana DeLuna. They are with our Department of Education and Professional Development. And when you arrive, some of the very first people you're going to work with are on Kim and Diana's team. And international nurses routinely tell me how kind and compassionate and supportive this group is. And so today they are going to talk to you about the U.S. Care Team. Kim and Diana, thank you for being here.
Hello, thank you for having us on. My name is Kim Pierce, and I am, of course, one of our educators for the Hendrick Health system. And I have the unique opportunity and role of helping establish our international nurses as they come in for some extended training, and then also our more newly developed residency program. And I get to do that alongside Diana here.
Hi, I'm Diana DeLuna. I get to work with Kim Pierce, and I have the fantastic opportunity to help her with the residency and extended L&O. And so I will get to see your faces as well, and I'm so excited to get to meet y'all.
Okay, so let me share my screen here. And we'll get this open. So this is going to be a very brief discussion here as we talk about navigating the U.S. Care Team. And this can be a transition for some of you where you come from a nursing role, and that nursing role looks like you doing everything for your patients. And instead, now you're transitioning to seeing all of these different people with various titles and roles that now help you in those tasks. So when we're looking at this idea, we want you to think of yourself as the nurse as a connector. You are the one that's directly at that patient's bedside for the set time frame, looking at them, looking at all the details. And so you're the one seeing those intimate pieces of your patient and what they need and who they need to be connected to. And so while your primary duty is, yes, performing an assessment, yes, care planning and evaluating that patient's care, we also have to make sure really that you are using your team because your patients are going to have a high acuity. And we want to make sure you can do your best, and you do that by including the teammates. So we're going to introduce some of who those people are. First off, we have UAPs, or unlicensed assistive personnel. And there are various titles, and I will say that sometimes this can be initially confusing when you arrive, and that's okay. It's a normal part of the transition, and the more you see them, the more you get used to them. So we have certified nurse aides, patient care technicians, and they're assisting you in the patient's basic care. You can see here that includes things like vital signs, hygiene, right, ambulating patients, performing intake and output. There may be a few other key skills in various departments, but this is really making sure your patients have those basic needs met. We also hire nursing students into a role that's called a nurse technician. I tend to think of them as more of a nurse intern because it helps me look at their role and their skill set as it applies day to day. And while they still provide basic care alongside our CNAs or PCTs, they also have the opportunity to practice some of the skills they're developing in their nursing programs. So that could include things like initiating an IV or removing a urinary catheter. There's other examples, but that's just some of the basics. And then we also have our unit clerks, and they're more of an office support role. And I so appreciate this role because they help manage so many of those administrative tasks occurring on the unit so that we can go in and do the patient care to the best of our ability. So they're answering phones, managing charts, ordering supplies, and other things, many other things. We do have respiratory therapists at Hendrick, and I love that we get to work alongside this particular group, this particular role. They really do everything that is involved with lungs and airway. So if your patient's on a ventilator, while of course you as a nurse might help manage all of that, they're right there alongside you, supporting you with it, supporting the patient. They come and they perform breathing treatments for our patients, or they give them their inhaler. They collect arterial blood gas readings. Okay, so they're on your team. You can call them if you have need of them, because one is typically assigned to a particular care area or unit, but also you may see they're already consulted on your patient's case. And so they'll be coming and performing rounds to check on that patient regardless. And we would just want you to be mindful, because we see historically for many international nurses, this is something that falls within their scope and their task during their shift. But here at Hendrick, this is something that we would expect the RT or respiratory therapist to perform. Diana?
So then we have the therapy trio. So this would be your physical therapist, your occupational therapist, speech language therapist, so more ancillary staff that we do have here in the hospital setting. So your physical therapist is going to be helping you get the patient from the bed to the chair safely. They often do rounds on several patients throughout the hospital on different units. You'll usually have a particular physical therapist that's assigned to your unit or department or area of specialty. And then you have your occupational therapist. They assist with activities of daily living. So things that we often do ourselves without even thinking about it, like putting our clothes on in the morning, brushing our teeth, that we often take advantage of. They are able to come in and help your patient with those activities. And then we have a speech language pathologist, and they will come in and help assess swallowing, make sure that the patient is able to swallow effectively and safely, and then they can help with difficulty swallowing. They can consult the physician, things like that, and then they're also going to be communicating these assessment findings with you as the primary nurse. And then we have what we call the exit team. So this is our case management and social work department. Their role is to assist with discharge planning. And so discharge planning starts on admission. And so really when the patient is admitted, we're already starting to think about what do they need to be able to go home safely? Is their home environment safe? will they need grab bars? Will they need certain equipment? Are they going to go home on oxygen therapy? And how can we get them connected to get that equipment that's going to be needed at home? And so case management and social work are really that person that come in and they have the resources and they are collaborating with you as the primary nurse to make sure that we set this patient up for success, and hopefully they are able to go home to a safe environment. And so you as the primary nurse are going to tell this exit team and be in communication with them to let them know when this patient is clinically ready, and then they handle more of the where and the how. And so we just want to make sure that there's communication from the beginning on admission so that that discharge out of the hospital goes smoothly. And then we have clinical pharmacists, always available 24/7. And so we think of our clinical pharmacists oftentimes as the ones that come and fill the Pyxis. And sure, that's one of their biggest jobs. But they also have a lot of knowledge about the different medications that are dispensed, and whether those medications are compatible. And so we can also call on them for that information. And we can also call them if we have a questionable dosage or medication. And so our top priority as nurses, but also as pharmacists, is obviously patient safety. And so there's a lot of communication that goes on between primary nurse and pharmacy. And then we have lots of communication with providers. And so you will be oftentimes, very commonly, every shift will be communicating with medical doctors, with nurse practitioners, with physician assistants. They also will be seen rounding throughout the hospital on your patients. And so you always want to make sure that you're speaking up for your patients and for your patient safety. We use what's called SBAR. And so anytime we give report, whether it's to another nurse, whether it's to a physician, you always want to use this standard of communication. And so we always start with the situation at hand, what is going on, the reason for our call. Anything that is pertinent to the situation as far as background goes. So patient history, any surgical background, any comorbidities, any conditions that could relate to the situation at hand. What is our assessment? So we are the ones at the bedside seeing the patient with our own eyes. And so what does our assessment say? And then any recommendations based on our assessment. And so sometimes you may communicate with a physician who realizes you are at the bedside and you see what's going on, and they may ask for your suggestion. And so this is kind of our standard of communication that we use here. And then there's the unwritten rules of the team. And so this just means that we want you to ask questions. Questions tell us that you are not afraid of looking for the answer if you're not sure what that is. And so we have plenty of resources. You should always be able to talk to your charge nurse on the floor. But we also have platforms, digital platforms that guide our practice here at Hendrick as nurses. And so those are things that you will learn once you get here. They're great resources, and those are the things that kind of guide our competence in our practice here. Respecting the clerk. And so we kind of talked about that earlier with the unit clerk. They're a great resource. And usually if you're not sure about something and you ask them, they have been there long enough to know where you can find that or who you need to call to get that answer. And so they are a great resource on the units or in the area of expertise. And then we have what we call huddle. And so what this is a brief meeting where typically it happens at the nurse's station, where you have your oftentimes case manager or your social worker, your manager, your charge nurse, and then you as the primary nurse. And this is just to keep everyone on the same page of what are the barriers to this patient going home? what is currently going on, what are some results we're waiting on, and what are some things that we're anticipating. And it's very brief. It only takes a few minutes. And so it's an efficient way of kind of keeping everybody on the same page as far as the plan and the plan for discharge for the patient. And so by sharing all of this, what we want you guys to know is that, yes, you are the leader, you are the primary nurse. And oftentimes it feels like there is a lot that rests on our shoulders as nurses. And we oftentimes forget that it doesn't just lay on us, like to have the answers. We're not expected to know all the answers and to do all the things. We have an entire team behind us that we can consult and we can communicate with in order to deliver that safe patient care that's our primary goal.
So, Chris, I think you're muted, Chris.
Thank you. Are y'all finished? Okay, thank you so much. That was really informative. I am so excited to introduce you to Eugene. He is one of our international nurses, and I first heard about him in the spring because he won a really big award. At Hendrick, there's lots of opportunities to be recognized for your work, and he won an award called Employee of the Quarter. And at this presentation, he gave a speech, and I was not there. I was at another event that day, but I had like 5 different people tell me, you have to hear Eugene. What he shared was so inspirational. So I am excited for him to talk to you about his journey as an international nurse. And I think it's going to resonate with you, and hopefully it offers you some reassurance and will get you even more excited for what's to come. Eugene, thanks for being with us.
Morning, everyone, and thank you for that very kind words, Chris. Yeah, it was amazing feeling during that time on the awarding. It's actually for the whole team. But hi, everybody. I mean, it is good morning, good evening. We're probably all from all over the world. But my name is Eugene Tan. I'm originally from Philippines. Supposed to be talking here with my wife, Mary Jane. She's also from Philippines, but she has to go on a Mac code training this morning, so she did not make it. But currently, I am working in a post anesthesia care unit in one of the campus in Hendrick, which is the Hendrick South campus. It's our story. We have a very, very long story. We moved from Philippines to England, United Kingdom, and then here in Abilene, Texas, West Texas, last August 4, 2016. So that's almost 10 years from now. Again, that was a very, very long journey for us. But, you know, just like us, everybody's always thinking like, you're always wondering, will I be able to adjust, moving from a different country to United States? Will I be a good nurse in United States? Will I fit into a different culture? Imagine, the adjustment that we did from Philippines, UK, and here. I've known people, Maria, been moving to 3 different countries, I think, that's a big adjustment. But we always have that story. But come to think, like, why we are doing it. Just like any international nurses, the reason we came to America is to get our American dream. We all do. It's always not easy, like we go through our NCLEX, our visa screens, and that's waiting for ages. Like I said, it took us 10 years to be here in the United States. That's a very, very long wait. But we were patient, and here we are. Looking back now, every delay, every obstacle become part of the journey, right? You have to enjoy the journey regardless how rough it is. But trying to think, remembering, starting first day, first week, first month, first 3 months in Hendrick, those are going to be interesting experiences. All I can tell though is Hendrick is very, very good about international nurses, new nurses actually in general coming to Hendrick. They have solid orientation for all of us guys. It's really good. Kim, Diana, they're all gonna be there. They're all gonna work with you all through the way, and Chris as well. Even before you come here, she's already working with everybody. That's a really really good program Hendrick have right now. I'm actually part of one of the doing the mentorship as well, working with Kim and Diana on the internationally educated nursing residency program. So that's a really good program that you're gonna have. That we're gonna have. So I'm gonna see you all as well during that time. But anyway, going back on the time at Hendrick, first time, what do you think? It's really difficult. Everything's new. Um, Documentation and meeting new people, new boss, language, the accent, that's very, very tough. That's part of the journey, though. That's the fun part about it. Funny experiences at work. When you come from different country, you say things differently. So I would love to share this one. This is actually experience of my wife. Um, at one time on her shift, because we were from England, right? So one time in her shift, we do when we actually admit a patient, we always ask them personal questions. Hey, did you? So Mary Jane asked the patient like, so, sir, did you had your bowels open today? That's the question. So the patient actually did not know what to say, and Mary Jane's been documenting that. Okay, bowels open in the chart. And then, her mentor asked one of the charge nurse, like, hey, well, Mary Jane's been charting this bubbles open in the chart. What does that mean? So the charge nurse ask her actually what bowels open mean. That actually means bowel movement if you had, you had to go to the bathroom. So it's very very one of the funny moments that the she had experienced during work. It's again it's learning the language, learning the lingo, if I say that right. But it's a very very fun part of, you think about it now like, oh okay, that's really really funny. But anyway, all of this though, whatever success we have right now with Hendrik, our profession being a nurse here, that did not come easy. Uh, the first part is obviously your challenges at work. Again, like I said, new documentation, machines, medication dispensing machine, and all of that will be one of the challenges you're gonna have while working at Hendrick. But most people they don't mention about the challenges that you have outside of work. Okay, that's a lot of other parts too of your career coming here. And we've been through that. I think again, we came here with two kids, 8 and 10 years old at that time. They're both in college right now. um Looking for a childcare, enrolling them in school, um looking for a place to stay, adjustment in outside culture, outside of work. That's the other thing. Big one, I think it's more bigger adjustment than the actual work. But actually, the best part here right now is Hendrik have built community for international nurses. Hendrik is very very diverse. I'm Filipino. There's a big Filipino community here, but I also have lots of friends from India, Nepal, people from Saudi Arabia, and nurses from Africa and other parts of the world. So you're not gonna be alone. You're gonna meet people at work and outside of work. I think that's the best part of that is building your community outside of work, which gonna help you throughout your journey here in Abilene, Texas. So I'm excited for everybody coming over and meeting you all. Um, I mean, everybody's excited to see everybody. International nurses, I'm always excited to see new Filipino faces. I always miss home. Personally, that's what I miss. I think outside of work is missing my mom. Missing my family and everybody else. Even missing your food, Filipino dishes and stuff like that. Um, and your friends, and that's totally normal. But again, Hendrick is so special. They have the best culture for international nurses. I'm really really biased, but we experienced that firsthand that Hendrick is really really good with international nurses. They always try their best to make you feel at home at work. um, but again, guys, all I can say, I think, is just be patient, be positive. um, at work, just ask questions. Question is not going to bite you back. It's actually going to help you. Your colleague's going to help. I might be one of your colleagues, who knows? But everybody's trying to help. Everybody, everybody's like a teamwork here. So I think my time is over soon, but before I finish, I really, really want to leave you with this thought. There will be days that you will feel tired. You will miss home. I still miss home until now. Um, you will have days that you will wonder if you made the right decisions. But always think about it, like, remember why you started, why you're here, why you're coming here. That's gonna be the big part of, I think, the things that you need to always think about to get your American dream. You know. So again, we can't wait to welcome you with a big bang. Not because we love guns in Texas, guys, but we have big in barbecues. So we will welcome you with briskets and and pulled pork and stuff like that. Chris, thank you so much for having me today. It's always so much fun sharing our experiences with, especially in Texas and the Hendrick overall. Thank you.
Thank you, Eugene. Can y'all see why I wanted you to meet him? I think you can. All right, it's time for Q&A. And we are here to answer your questions. And I just want you to know that we are excited. Please type your questions in the chat box and for any of today's speakers. And if we don't know the answer, we will find it for you.
Awesome. Thank you. Yes, please put your answer or your questions in, and you have individuals, but from both sides, Visa Solutions Healthcare as well as Hendrick, to answer those questions. And I think today's webinar was fantastic. I want to say that for all of you nurses, I had the privilege to go out and visit all 3 campuses at Hendrick. And I tell everybody who I speak to as nurses continue to interview at Hendrick, when you walk in the doors at Hendrick, there is a feeling that comes over you that you don't feel anywhere else. And as I mentioned, as a nurse, I've done travel nursing and worked in several different types of hospitals throughout the United States. And I've never felt so peaceful and calm as I did when I walked through those doors. It is something that I tell everybody about. And hearing the chaplain speak today told me exactly why I felt that peace when I walked through those doors.
Thank you for sharing that, Angel. That's really special, and that's our goal. That's really encouraging. We have time for some questions.
Chris, I saw one question in Q&A saying, do we have chaplains for all denominations? And so just for everyone else listening, yes, we do have several denominations represented in our department. It is an interdenominational department. I will say that the hospital is faith-based and it is affiliated with the Baptist denomination. And so we are a Baptist hospital, but just within the department, we have many different denominations represented.
Thank you, Wes. Oh, Betty, Not a question, but a comment. I love the knit team at Hendrick Health and the team on this call, all smiles, and that's very encouraging. I'm so glad that you feel that. I'm glad you see that because that's authentic.
There is that question about wellness programs. And I know that you guys from Hendrick can speak on this better, but I know that when I was there, there is a gym located really close by. There's groups that do morning yoga and running. And so there are, and I mean, I'm pretty sure there's pickleball. Pickleball has taken over the state of Texas. It is everywhere. Even my 13-year-old is actively playing pickleball a couple times a week.
So we do have other wellness programs within Hendrick as a system. We have a gym where you can get memberships and they have exercise classes, things like that. We have other wellness programs too, like our employee wellness department, that's like an occupational health department. They have an application where they literally have workouts programmed in there, nutrition programs. You can join challenges with your team. So like our team did a walking challenge recently, just to kind of stay on top of those things in your health. But within our communities, like in Abilene or in Brownwood, there's opportunities for all of these things, like you were talking about, Angel. So like, yes, you have access to tennis. Yes, you have access to pickleball. We have a lot of good friends that have played it. And recently, some of our internationalers just said they even had a pickleball court at their apartment, and they were all gathering together and playing and things like that. So that is absolutely a strong opportunity.
I see the question that is for how long is orientation. My name is Allison Johnson, and I'm the Director of Education. I kind of oversee two parts with our education team. We have our Department of Education, and then we have our unit educators. And so for your initial onboarding, where you'll get to see Kim and Diana and the rest of our team, that orientation process is about 1 to 2 weeks, just to kind of get you integrated into Hendrick, the areas you'll be working, and just kind of the basics of nursing, what equipment we use. Depending on the unit or area that you're hired to, you'll go directly from that initial orientation with the Department of Education and work with our unit educators and managers. And so generally orientation on the floor, it could be an average of anywhere from 8 to 12 weeks. It could also be up to 16 weeks, depending if you are in a specialty area. But one thing that I would like to focus on is that all of these orientations are built to you and your needs. You check in frequently with your unit educator and your manager, and they go over your progress to see, okay, what are your strengths? What are you struggling with? Are there things that we can do to help you throughout this time? And so if you are a just seasoned nurse and you catch on really quickly, you may have a shortened orientation, but there's always that question of, do you feel comfortable, and do you feel safe, and do you know your resources? And if not, we extend that until we get to that place. So while the orientation length can vary depending on the area you work from, it is still very individualized to your needs.
Thank you, Allison. There is another question, Allison, you would probably be good at about computer skills. Which computer skills would you encourage us to fine tune or practice more just to be tech savvy, considering our systems are sometimes not so detailed?
Yeah, so for computer skills, a lot of it is if you have a place where you're able to type. A lot of our charting systems are not a lot of free text. There are some times where you may have to put in some free text, but a lot of it is our check boxes. And a part of that initial orientation, whenever you first get to Hendrick, we include time carved out for you to meet with our clinical informatics team. And so that team is made up of our IT people, our nurses that are able to explain the charting system and kind of put it together of what are clinical needs that I need to document for this patient and how do I navigate the chart. And so really there's not a certain skill I could recommend. Just kind of have that assurance that that's something that we do go over in detail, and we have the option that if later on we're maybe still not catching on, or maybe we're still having some issues navigating the chart, we have the option to come back and meet with that clinical informatics team as well.
Thank you. Bisharat said, thank you, everyone. It was a wonderful session. I would like to share that this session truly touched me and renewed my commitment to providing compassionate care. Listening to all of you was inspiring, thought-provoking, and incredibly valuable. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and experiences. That made my whole day, Bisharat. Thank you for sharing that. That is exactly the goal. Eugene, you have a question. Can you share some tips before we arrive? What to prepare and a must-learn skills outside and inside the hospital? I'm also from the Philippines. God bless.
Oh, great. Oh, that's good. Excited to see you all. I mean, in general, I think no specific skills really, because I mean, you just have to, I guess, just be open-minded on everything. As I said, everything here is gonna be with the Hendrick side. Everything's gonna be shown to you, and you'll be fully guided. I mentioned this in the last meeting before that when we first came here 10 years ago, we're pretty much by ourselves, but Chris and her team have built this group that you can help you actually when you come here, and that includes everything to finding things that could help you with transportation, or help you to look for an apartment and stuff like that, and just be with you to show you around, and just be familiar with everything. So again, in general, you'll be fully guided. So I don't have very specific on skills and stuff like that, but just um, just know that you'll be fully supported. I think is enough to know. I hope that answers the question, Chris.
Thank you.
Okay, so
Education, there's a question asking about orientation. Do you see that, Allison?
Yes. And so, again, for the length of the orientation, it depends on kind of the area you're going to. For the initial orientation, where you're learning about Hendrick and kind of what nursing care is going to look like, that will take a week typically, maybe a little bit over, depending if you need a little extra time to work on the lessons that we have on the computer for you. But I would say an average, to give a very wide berth, and again, this is kind of encompassing all, your orientation that you would be on the floor that you're working on with a coach and going through orientation would be anywhere from 8 to maybe 16 weeks. And that's, again, a very large berth because that depends on the area you're working for. And then I see one that is asking where the orientation will be done. And so after you complete that first week of your initial orientation, the rest of your orientation will be either in the classroom and then you go to the unit, or you will start directly on the unit. So an example of this is if you are going to work on one of our cardiac units, and you don't have a lot of cardiac experience where you're from, but that's an area you're interested in. After that week of initial orientation with the Department of Education, you'll go and meet with your unit educators, and you'll have a few weeks with them going over one of our learning systems that we use called ECHO. And so that gives you a little bit more detail into your body systems, especially regarding cardiac care. We teach you about learning and interpreting EKG rhythms and heart rhythms, and then also just a brief review over pharmacology. During that time, you'd also get certifications that you need, if that's ACLS, BLS, NIH for stroke patients. All of those things will be taken care of during that class time. And then you go onto the unit to be paired with a coach. So while it is in a designated area, it could differ a little bit, but the majority of your orientation will be on the unit.
Thank you. I'm seeing some questions about jobs for our spouses, and that is definitely something I can help with. If they are looking for jobs, we'll start having conversations a few months before you arrive. After you'll go through all of your stuff with Visa Solutions first, and then a few months before you arrive, you'll begin talking to me about more specific things that are specific to Abilene or to Brownwood, and that's where I can help you. I can find out what their background is in, if they have degrees. There could be things that they have to get certified for here in America, depending on the job. But yes, I can help provide that support. Somebody asked about how inclusive is Hendrick in terms of disability, like autistic children, deaf community. Are there specific clinicians who take care of them, or is every health worker trained in this area? I would say, thank you for that question. In America, we operate under the Americans with Disabilities Act, and so that ensures good care. And how that works in practice would be that every healthcare worker receives foundational training on inclusivity, how to use hospital resources, for example, knowing how to immediately connect a deaf patient with an interpreter. But everyone is trained on basic accommodations, but deeply specialized care, I would say, is handled first through the pediatrician. But then, for example, a child with autism might be seen by a specialist. Or a behavioral therapist, so that has dedicated their career just to that specific community. So we have a lot of dedicated support staff, social workers, people like that. So I hope that answers your question.
I need a couple of questions related to the charting system. And Hendrick currently uses Altera Sunrise for their charting system. This is something that they contracted into many years ago. It was originally under Allscripts, and Allscripts is now under Altera. So they use the Sunrise platform within that group. And there is the potential that Hendrick will have a different charting system within the next couple of years, but right now that's not established. And so we use Altera Sunrise, but within Hendrick, you hear everybody call it Apollo. And that is because many years ago when they were integrating this program, they held a voting competition to decide the name, and somehow Apollo was chosen. That was the most voted response. And so you don't hear people say Altera Sunrise, they say Apollo. So just so you're aware, any way I've been able to find like maybe YouTube videos on it or things like that are generally under Allscripts instead of Altera if you're wanting to see some examples.
Nancy says, we're grateful. Kindly make the session 2 hours for the next one. It's really informative. Thank you for that, Nancy. And also, if you have ideas, if you have specific questions, things that you want to learn about, please message me or tell Angel, because we want this to be helpful to you. So if there are topics or concerns that you have, communicate that with us so we can make this really, really helpful to you.
If for whatever reason somebody's questions did not get answered, after this presentation has ended, the marketing team at Visa Solutions Healthcare will collect all the questions. If there's any follow-up that we need to do on our side as far as Visa Solution Healthcare employees, we will reach out. That person who is assigned for that department of the question is in will reach out to you and update you there. And then again, if there are any additional questions that you have for Hendrick Health, please feel free to send me those questions. Chris is amazing at getting back to me. And even when she doesn't know the answer, she still gets back to me. She'll go and find that answer and let me know so I can report that back to all of you. I'm just going to answer that. Does Hendrick offer support? Hendrick does offer support for all of the nurses and employees who want to continue their education. Another thing that is great about the location of one of the Abilene facilities is just 2 blocks away is a university where you could go to school to continue that education. Well, I think we are wrapping up for the day. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Be on the lookout. You'll start getting your next save the date for the next webinar in the next couple months. And remember to tell your friends, have them join. This is a great way to really connect and learn more about where you're going and what you have to look forward to. And thank you, everyone at Hendrick, for such an amazing webinar today.
Thank you, Visa Solutions.